Andresso, Nathalie Ballard, Ananya Nadya Rangelova.
Good morning, everybody. Today we will be presenting our conceptual project for Grohe. Let's start off by seeing what our objectives are. Well, basically, our objectives are to design a bathroom for Grohe, respecting the target's lifestyle, his future needs in living, and finally, architectural inclinations. Let's start off by seeing who our target is. Our target is basically someone who lives in a crowded city, so therefore he has a need for privacy. He is someone who lives alone, therefore has a need for socialization. Also, he's someone who works very long hours, and therefore has a need for constant relaxation. Now let's go on to seeing how our target will be living in the future. Basically, a drastic urbanization has been predicted for the future. So more and more people are moving towards cities. So basically, this is going to affect how a person lives, because apartments are going to get smaller, and more people have to share an area. So we decided to look at examples of this, and we looked at an example of an already overcrowded city, which is Hong Kong, where architect Gary Chang managed to make his micro apartment into a multifunctional 24-room apartment with the help of modular moving walls. How did these modular moving walls work? Well, basically, furniture is folded into these walls when they're not required, and these walls can be moved around, thereby creating different spaces. So you use a space when you require it. So we decided to take a step back and look at the past, and how people in the past predicted the future, and what were their solutions for it. So we looked at the idea of metabolism. Metabolism was interesting because it showed us that architecture develops and changes due to the changes in the environment. So we looked at different examples of this, starting with clusters in the air. Clusters in the air is basically a space-saving proposal that envisioned that the future city will be built upon an already existing city, thereby getting more people to stay in this space. Another example is Plug-in City, which is one of the first examples of movement. Basically, Plug-in City envisioned that people will be living in micro-capsules, and these capsules will only contain primary needs. And all of the other needs are scattered around the building, so people can move in their capsules to wherever their need is required. So they move their spaces depending on the resource. Walking City was another example of movement, but here, resources move towards people instead of people moving towards resources. Finally, we decided to conclude our research on metabolism with an already existing and realized metabolistic architecture, which is called Naga-kin Capsule Tower. Basically, Naga-kin Capsule Tower also believed that people will be living in micro-capsules, and these micro-capsules could be extended by connecting them to each other, thereby creating larger spaces. From there, we went on to seeing what the solutions that have been created today are for this drastic urbanization that is already taking place. Well, apartments are getting smaller. So people have started to live in micro apartments. And basically, these apartments don't contain all the functions that you require. So some areas are offered as shared areas. And these shared areas have the functions that are not present in your micro apartment. And this actually also speaks to people who want to own their own apartment, but not feel shut off by it, lost in an impersonal city. So we looked at various examples of this. One is the Yokohama apartment, which is already existing today. And here, various artists live on the top floor, and their shared area is on the bottom floor. And this interesting shared area contains a kitchen, as well as a socialization area. So these people who live alone can constantly socialize with each other in this area. Another interesting example is W57, which is a future proposal. Basically, this building has been divided into two different zones. One is a residential zone, where people live in small micro apartments, and the other is a shared zone, where you find features such as restaurants, gyms, stores, thereby somehow creating a community within the building. So we decided to then move on to architecture and see how all of these changes are affecting architecture today and in the future. So we decided to look at architecture which also followed the idea of metabolism, that architecture is constantly evolving and changing. Starting off with the Westwater Gallery with Norman Foster. Well, basically, Norman Foster introduced a way to create an extension to each space in the form of an elevator. So when you require an extension, this elevator comes up to you. The Jenga Tower also followed the idea of movement, but here movement was used to create new living solutions. So people who lived in these capsule apartments could constantly change the position of their apartment every 3 years, so they were constantly meeting new people, new neighbors. Another idea of extension was created with the help of a plug-in, and this example is a rucksack house, where an exterior substance came to your house when you required it. Another interesting form of plug-in is in the form of the parasite office. Well, basically, this office used the space between two buildings in order to create a shared zone. Norman Foster actually introduced the idea of building upon height in order to create an extension to a space. So he introduced in the Hearst Tower another building on top of an already existing building in the year 2006. And finally, future proposals such as the urban forest skyscraper show us that the future city is a vertically growing city. So now we would like to conclude our analysis and research by raising up questions to see if this is how we would like to be living in the future. Starting off with, can a smaller apartment be just as comfortable? Can we choose when we really want to share? What is the most comfortable solution for a small apartment? Can movement help meet new people? Is there a way that we can plug in only when we want to plug in? And finally, can height accommodate all of the needs for urbanization? Now we bring you to our concept. Well, our concept is something that revolves around the target. So therefore, it was important for us to see what our target really needs from his home. Starting off with, a person has two needs from his apartment. One is a primary need and the other is a secondary need. The primary need is something that is fundamental and something that a person needs every day. Starting off with an area for eating, resting, cleaning, working, and finally socializing. The secondary need, on the other hand, is something that you don't require every day, but you do require at some point. And these are to relax and energize, because our target is someone who leads a very hectic lifestyle. Because apartments are getting smaller, all of these needs can't fit anymore. Therefore, the needs that do actually fit are only the primary needs. And our solution is actually that the secondary needs can be given to a person when he needs it. And this can be given to a person in the form of a shared area. So this person can use this area either privately or with other people. So this brings us to the various elements that you find in our conceptual project. Starting off with the fact that the secondary need is given as a plug-in. So it plugs into your apartment. So the apartment follows an L shape to make it seem like this plug-in is actually entering your space, thereby making it more continuous. And the materials that we would like to use in this space is more or less the same materials that you find in your apartment. So you always feel like you're still at home, even though you're entering into this extension. The other idea is this plug-in is offered as a moving solution. So it comes to you only when you require it, thereby emitting wastage. So basically you only use these things when you require it, and when you don't, someone else can use it instead. And this follows geometric shapes, thereby following the symmetry of the building. And the material we would like to use is a material like an earth material, such as wood, so that you always feel like you're on the ground, even when this plug-in is moving up and down. The plug-in is offered as a shared solution, so you can either use it privately, or you can invite your neighbors to join you. Linear lines are used in this space, thereby inviting a person into the space. And finally, we use materials such as glass, so that when you're in the space with your friend, you can always see each other. Both the apartment and the plug-in are offered as changeable spaces. So basically, the space changes to you depending on what you require from it. And this can be realized with the help of a modular shape, because modular shapes are more space-saving. And because this space is something that can be changeable, we decided that the environment should be something that's changeable as well. And this can be done with the help of interactive glass panels, thereby you can set the mood of the space. Because our target is someone who will be living in the future, he needs to constantly be connected with others, with his work, with his friends. So both the spaces are given interactive functions. And these interactive functions follow straight shapes, thereby following a continuity within the spaces. And finally, a person is also invited to interact with nature, not just a virtual interaction, but an actual physical interaction with nature. And this can be done with the help of stone. So we finally decided to use a form of natural light in our space. So we use a light that actually imitates natural light. This is done with the help of modular shapes. And finally, this is actually done so that a person can feel liberated and free and open in the space. So now we come about to decide on what we actually want to name this plugin. We decided to name it Paraspa. Basically, para in Paraspa is derived from the word parallel, because it is offered as a parallel space to your home, and also because it is offered as a parallel possibility to socialize. And now we would conclude our concept by answering some of the questions that were raised in research and analysis, such as, we are offering a comfortable solution for a small apartment by providing the features that aren't present in this apartment in the form of a plugin. This space is offered as a shared space, so it speaks to people who live alone. They can always invite their neighbors and their friends into this space. The most comfortable solution for the future is a modular solution for the future. So you use something when you need it, and when you don't, you put it away. Movement helps create new social situations. And finally, this plugin can come to you when you require it, and when you don't, it goes to someone else. Now we invite you to our project, Move It, which is a space which actually you don't move to, as this space comes to you. We're going to start off by describing where this space is going to be. Basically, we envision that the space is going to be in a building, and this space is actually offered as something that's movable, as explained in the concept. So it's actually something that we think will be shared between 6 different apartments. It can be reached through 2 entrances of each apartment on each floor. So in our project, it's important for us to explain even the apartment, because the primary needs are present in the apartment. So primary needs and secondary needs coexist within each other. The apartment consists of only primary needs. It has an entrance, it has a kitchen, which is the primary need, a living area, a balcony, a primary bathroom, a hallway connecting the spaces, and finally, an office and bedroom space. Basically, this office and bedroom space is a changeable space, so it can be either used as an office or a bedroom, depending on your requirement from it. To further understand our project, we would like to describe it to you through our target's life. So here is our target, Sarah, who has just woken up in the morning. It's a Sunday morning, she's lazy, she has no work. So she wakes up and she goes towards the kitchen for a cup of coffee. This kitchen area is actually integrated with the living room, so it makes it a very open space. And the living room contains materials such as concrete, which has a white finishing, thereby making the space feel a little neutral. And also wood, which gives it more of a homey feeling. After her cup of coffee, Sarah decides to kickstart her day, go brush her teeth, so she enters into her primary bathroom. The bathroom is something that only contains primary needs, because the other secondary needs, again, are offered in the secondary area, which you will be seeing later. The primary needs are a sink, a WC, and finally a shower. The sink and the WC area are actually connected, thereby it's used in an eco-friendly manner. You reuse the water that you use in the sink in order to flush the WC area. And finally, there's an air curtain provided in the shower, thereby keeping the place very clean. Because this is a small bathroom, it's important that it's a very clean bathroom. So the air curtain makes sure that water doesn't get out of the shower area. After Sarah finishes her shower, and now we're going to stop and slowly describe some of the materials that you find in this space, such as fiber steel, concrete, wood, and concrete and wood actually are also found in the apartment, so it's more continuous. Then barisol, which acts as the main lighting in the space. tinted glass so that Sarah can enjoy her shower with some privacy, mirrors, and finally crystal plant. Crystal plant is actually used as it is a very hygienic material. It's also very easy to be cleaned, so it's a material that's recommended for wet areas. After she finishes up her shower, Sarah decides to go to her bedroom and office area. And this area, she has an interactive wall which actually helps her work. As mentioned before, this bedroom and office area is a changeable area. How can this be a changeable area? Well, basically, it follows a modular system. So when you don't require the bed, you fold it into your wall, and you make it an office instead. While Sarah is finishing up her work, her neighbor Matthias invites her to the para spa. So she decides to join him. What is this para spa? The para spa is an area which only has secondary needs, such as it has a shower, it has a steam sauna, and actually this shower and steam sauna area is the only area which is static in the project. Everything else in this area is changeable and movable. It also contains gym features, spa relax features. And this gym and spa area is actually the changeable area. So all of the functions are present inside the wall. So when you require it, it comes out of the wall. It contains storage areas. And finally, an interactive screen, so Sarah can always stay connected. The various gym equipment that is present here is one bike. One bike is interesting because it's actually a bike which converts the kinetic energy that you produce into electricity, thereby lighting up the space. Contains a treadmill, which also has an interactive panel so you can always stay connected. And finally, vocal dumbbells, which actually guide you through your workout. The spa features are a jacuzzi, relaxed benches, and finally a steam sauna. The para spa is actually a changeable space, so it can be changed into a relaxed area or a gym area. And it actually contains equipment that always cleans it. Everyone is always worried that a shared area is not a very clean area, but actually this is not true, because in this space, all of the equipment can be cleaned as soon as it enters into the cupboards. So as soon as it's finished being used, it is re-cleaned constantly. Let's go on to seeing how this space works. Basically, when Sarah requires something, she presses a button. And it opens up in the form of foldable doors, so various functions come outside. As mentioned earlier, Sarah decides to join her friend Matthias for a workout. And various equipment in the space can be reached with the help of this form of communication. So where you read where this equipment is. Here is Sarah again enjoying her gym solution. And as mentioned before, because the space is something that's changeable, Sarah can actually relax while Matthias finishes up his workout. So you can change the space into anything that you want it to be. The various materials that are present here are balsam, which is the same as is present in the apartment, crystal plant, which is a very easy to clean and lightweight material, wood, so it follows a continuity with the apartment. As mentioned earlier, it contains an interactive screen. This interactive screen actually helps Sarah always stay connected and also change the mood of the space. So after her shower, Sarah decides to go have a steam in her sauna. And the various materials that are present here are fiber C, because it is a very hygienic material. Frosted glass, so Sarah has some privacy. Crystal plant, as again, it is very easy to be cleaned and very recommended for wet areas. So basically, this space is offered as something that can be used 24 hours of the day. As soon as you have a need, you can step into it. You can invite others. So in this way, we are actually minimizing wastage. So you use something only when you need it. Why would we want to live in this world where you which is full of things that you don't always need. So let's stop and use something only when we need it. So now we invite you to further understand our project with the help of a motion picture.